Good morning.
Hello, Kay. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, Chris. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Exactly, and it's brilliant doing these. Our kind of because we talk a lot, don't
We
we?
do. We do. Yeah, we have oodles
Yeah,
of conversations, and I love that. I love finding people in my world that I can what I call shoot the breeze with.
yes,
And not there's no-go area.
yeah,
Because it's all something that is of value to us inside, and the space in between us allows for something new to develop,
exactly.
and it's good to share that as well. So thank you.
Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. Great. So we want to talk about mentoring,
We do indeed, Mr. Baseline Mentoring.
but
That's
actually, if I go back to some of the best mentors I've had in my life, definitely you will be one of them, right? And
oh,
that might, I knew that would shock you. There you go, right?
just
But
wait a minute.
I know, but even the other day, right, I called you for some advice, and what was brilliant about what you did was, and bearing in mind, right, the two of us have been doing NLP for decades, but we don't want to share exactly how many decades, but it's been a few, right? And just by what you did, just by the conversation you had with me, it was a kind of a reframe. And what I did was I put myself in the shoes of two other people. So it was almost like that perceptual positioning. And you were the wise person in that scenario. You were position three, as it were. And basically, I was just like, yeah, what am I worried about? Boom, right? And that for me is the power of mentoring. Having the ability to be able to check in with somebody, not just in your hour of need, but when you're kind of think, oh, I'm not sure about this. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, or you could have gone along with how I was feeling when I described my feelings to you and said, oh yeah, that's terrible, Chris, isn't it? And then that would have been sympathetic. But what you showed was genuine empathy and then a little bit of radical candor. And that kind of helped me to then shift my perspective. And I guess that's what mentoring is all about, isn't it?
I think so. I was thinking about how I would define mentoring,
Mm,
and I think that example is what comes to mind when you talk about that example is I remember that call, and um, and I looked at the situation from the words that you were giving me,
yeah, yeah,
and sort of mapped out and followed Richard Bandler's advice, which I would do with my clients or
yeah,
anybody really, and just go, oh, that's interesting. What's there that shouldn't be there,
yeah,
and what's not there
yeah,
that should be there? And
yeah.
and immediately I could see some things or connections or suspect, because you never really know, and I'm not a mind reader.
No,
But I
no.
thought, well, I can see this thing. How can I get Chris to see it?
Yeah, yeah,
And then it was, what we would say, well, targeted questions or whatever it would be. And and that when I contrast that with the person that I was decades ago, I would have just leapt in and said, "What you need to do, Chris,
is this?
is
Yeah,
this.
that's right.
You
That's
know,
right. That's
I'll
right.
solve your problems.
Yeah,
Here you
exactly.
go.
Yeah,
This is what you should do." And you shouldn't have done that.
yeah,
So I would have come from my map of the world
yeah.
and given you the solution. And I would have felt really good about
Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
Yeah,
I had achieved something, I had done something.
yeah.
Because what we know, and this is the value of mentoring, is it's got absolutely jack shit to do with me.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
it's
That's
not,
right.
I'm not there for me. I'm like, how can I, give, and we were chatting recently about generative learning.
Yes.
What can I put in that space
Yeah,
that Chris can find? Actually, I'm just going to, something that's just springing to my mind as we're speaking, that
yeah,
Chris can find that may or may not be useful to him, but at least it moves his brain in a different way,
Yeah.
a different direction. And I'm going to just show you these. I use these in my trainings all the time,
Right.
including big hula hoops.
Yeah.
But you know, I'll stop in a moment because I'm launching into into my
That's fine. Go for it.
training brain. But you know, if that is you,
Yeah.
your map of the world, and that is me and my map of the world, yeah, we know a little bit about each other.
Yeah. Bit of overlap.
Do, but the real, I think this is true for most of our work, but
Yeah.
particularly when it comes to mentoring,
Yeah.
is there's that space in between.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so I have a set of skills, and it's like, what can I put in that space
Yeah.
the other person may or may not pick up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but if they do, that will just course, correct is the wrong term, but it
Yeah.
just change the course in some
Yeah. Yeah.
way.
Definitely. Yeah.
So you know, I knew ahead of time we decided this week we would chat about mentoring, and I was like, do I even have a definition of mentoring? What do I think mentoring is? And to me, the best thing I could come up with was it's like a container. It's like that middle hoop. It's the container. I can hold that space as a
Yeah.
mentor,
Yeah.
without judging it good, bad, right, wrong. I can put in my experience, my wisdom, and I can use my skills. And the whole time that we're in rapport and the space is safe, and I was, what I care about most of all is
Yeah.
how is that other being going to move forward in a more
Forward.
positive direction,
Exactly.
and not try to control the outcome.
Yeah.
And that's different to coaching.
Yeah. Definitely different to coaching. Yeah.
And you know, there are lots on the internet, you know, lots of descriptors, aren't there, about what's mentoring, what's coaching. And
Yeah.
you know, coaching is, well, yeah, I need you to get here. I've got to keep going until you get there.
Yeah.
Mentoring is, well, you know, you're heading in that direction. How can I help you?
Yeah. And I guess this is the key thing. Very often the coach has some kind of vested interest in the other person achieving
Yeah,
whatever
the
outcomes there
goals.
are,
Yeah.
right? So, you think about it as a manager, and, we were both managers ourselves, in charge of teams. And, when you're coaching them, yes, you are using things like the meta model, and you're generally getting them into a direction they need to be going in. At the same time, because they may work for you or they're in your division, then there is a vested interest in you helping them achieve the outcome, right? But it's not the same with mentoring, is it?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, and that maybe the focus is on outcome rather than direction,
Mm,
to make that distinction.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
yeah, it's so cool. And the awareness of, this is sort of one of my 101 teachings, is who's this about?
Yeah, yeah,
Who's this about? Because if I want to maintain our friendship on the basis of I want you to like me, then
yeah,
I'm just going to give you platitudes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that makes it all about me. And I
yeah,
think first of all, really good friendship, but also really good mentoring is being bold and brave enough to challenge within the boundaries of rapport.
yeah,
But we have a responsibility to, in some way, challenge um, a perception that
yeah,
might be a block.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And or the person's maps, as it were, you know.
The world.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
all of this has come about because in the last, well, since the 1st of April, my friend Tony and I set up this business, which is called Baseline Mentoring. And the purpose really came about because I think after the George Floyd murder, there were a lot of people who were kind of, how can I put this, hand wringing. And I had a lot of contact. A lot of people were contacting me saying, "Are you okay?" And I was thinking, I wasn't involved. What are you asking me? But they're kind of saying, "Yeah, but you saw this, all this." And then, there was a lot of stuff that was going on. There was the Black Lives Matter movement that was kind of exacerbated, or because everyone had seen that, then they got a lot much more traction because they've been around for quite a number of years before that. I think since 2013. But then it became prominence because I think people were all sitting at home because we were all in lockdown and just looking a lot at the TV or on YouTube or whatever. And I looked at that and I thought there's an opportunity here to kind of help some people that probably need some help. That's where.
But you're talking about a very specific kind of help, aren't you? You're not talking about financial help or, I don't know what other kind of helps there might
Yeah,
be.
well,
You're talking about the adjust, the psychological, the
well,
emotional, the
yeah, well, it kind of got.
behavioral.
It's really interesting because it's kind of everything. I looked at it and I thought, what are the problems with people from underrepresented groups in society? Why, everyone's going on about, why they are they've got less or they don't get the opportunities. And the thing was, I mean, my friend Tony and I, we were both like, uh, what's everyone talking about? Because we've managed to get to a really
Yeah,
senior level in our roles. Yeah, there have been a few little incidents along the way. In fact, so many incidents that you kind of just
yeah,
put it aside. You just don't even worry about it anymore. You kind of think that's all part of it. It makes you stronger. But
mhm,
what we were seeing was a lot of people who were hurting and they didn't know where to go or who to help them. So we had this idea of, why don't we just form a group of people who look like the people who are hurting and actually help them if they
mhm.
want to be helped.
Yeah, that's a really big question.
Yeah, 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 because there's a lot of people that don't,
Hmm.
right? But then there's a lot of people that do. And what I found out in conversations and doing a bit of market research was some of these people would say things to me like, "Chris, so I got this new job and I'm really worried because A, no one in the company looks like me. They've recruited me for my skills, and I feel like I'm turning up to a party and I don't know all the rules.
Yeah,
And then everyone's going to laugh at me because I didn't know the rules, but no one taught me the rules because there's no manual."
yeah,
And I thought, yeah. And that's where I thought the mentoring would work
yeah,
because there's a lot of us who do know the rules, or we've been in that situation and realised it's okay to be laughed at occasionally if
yeah,
it means that you move on. You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So,
So many things that come in spring to my mind, and it's interesting just to observe the process because my brain's looking for how to make sense of what you're saying. What are my
yeah,
experiences?
yeah,
And I remember as a child, like we moved a lot
a
in
lot.
the 70s. We moved a lot, and I was always the new girl in class. And in those days, people didn't move, and so
No.
I was always different.
Yeah,
So in not in the same context that you're describing, but I was
yes,
in the minority. I was different. I didn't understand the rules of engagement of that social group at that moment in time.
yes,
So I learned very quickly how to hit the ground running, how to adapt, how to change my behaviors and observe what's going on around me,
yeah,
quickly get out of ridicule. And there were a couple of examples where, yes, that ridicule existed and it was deeply painful, but I learned to work through it. And as you were speaking, I was like, yeah, that thing. But of course, there's another layer to what you're saying, which is, well, I looked like the kids in my class.
yeah, Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so already there was something to our mammalian social emotional
yeah,
connecting brain
yeah,
that says, well, we have something in common.
yeah,
Um, and I think we forget, we get all political about racism, but we forget that somewhere in our brain we're searching for it. Do we look the same? Do we sound the same?
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember being in Japan once, and we went off piste, and several times little old ladies would come up to me and
yeah,
stare at me.
yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
never
yeah,
seen any tall, blonde,
yeah, that's right.
blue-eyed girl. And it was
Yeah,
like, what is that?
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and I felt really exposed. And so the reason for raising that is I think that we have a social responsibility in these discussions to help people to understand it's not just about whatever you think about racism,
yeah,
that there are some deep needs to feel similar
yeah,
or the same. And when
absolutely.
we don't, it has quite an interesting and often stressful effect in the brain.
There's a brilliant book by this lady called Reverend Agent Kyodo Williams, right?
That's a
Angel
mouthful.
Kyodo Williams, right? And the book's all about belonging, and it's absolutely brilliant. She's a Buddhist. She's apparently, I believe, the only black Buddhist monk master, right? Uh, or whatever that phrase is. I'm not in the monk business, so I don't really understand the levels. But anyway, so she talks a lot about exactly what you're talking about, this kind of not being part of the group.
Mm,
And you can all look the same,
yeah.
and you can easily be out of the in group. And this kind of thing, and all the neuroscience is telling us now that, this idea of being extricated from the group, and your reptilian brain really goes into fore there because, ultimately in the old days, back when the earth was cooling, you wouldn't survive
Yeah,
if you were extricated from the group. So that feeling
yeah,
that people have when they don't feel like they belong
yeah,
is still like that kind of primeval feeling that people had, and it's really hard to overcome,
yeah. But
unless, of course, you have tools to
well,
overcome.
exactly. I was
Yeah,
just going to say, yeah, but and when you have tools, of course you can, but even before that, and this is the basis of my happy brain training, is to help people to understand enough about how their brain is
yes,
working,
yeah,
just to, as you mentioned your reptilian brain,
yeah,
just interested in survival. It
yes,
doesn't care how you get there.
yeah,
And the mammalian brain is the, well, yeah, you need to be part of a tribe,
yeah,
otherwise you're going to
yeah,
be left on the savannah and the predators will get you. So
yeah, that's right.
really simple stuff, and we shouldn't overcomplicate that. But we get these feelings, don't we? That, oh,
Yeah,
I'm the odd one out, I'm being rejected, and then we make a story up about it, or society gives us a story. And I see this loads with kids who don't
absolutely.
want to go to school because they're being rejected or perceived to be rejected by
Yeah,
the social group.
yeah,
And then all the stories, it is because it's because I did this, said that, or they tell me it's because I
yeah,
didn't do this or didn't do that. And you sort of take away the story and say, okay, now you've got some feelings.
yeah,
Not valid.
yeah,
The story's not valid
yeah,
necessarily, but you've got these feelings and they're valid. Let's start there. Your body is
absolutely.
saying something to you. And actually, most people get hurt, don't they? And they say, right, that's it. I hate you. I reject you. I'm never going to have anything more to do with you. But actually, they want to be belonging.
Yeah,
And so giving them the skills to discern whether or not they want to belong, and if they do, what can, self-responsibility, what can I do?
yes.
rather than you have to change social group.
Yeah.
I do to feel calm and relaxed and resourceful, and then build some skills so that, yeah, I always think in terms of stealth. You back in the day when I was doing some lecturing and I had some very naughty kids that we'd have to deal with who'd been already excluded from school, and they were used to people going wah 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 wah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and that's so I would just kill them with kindness,
yeah.
and they didn't know how to deal with that.
No, that's right, because they were used to just having their,
That's right.
yeah,
And
just having
so,
fights all the time.
uh,
Literally, in some
yes,
occasions as well.
yeah, and
Yeah,
carry weapons and so on. So that
yeah.
pattern interrupt gave me an opportunity to build rapport with them and orient their attention in another direction. So I know we've kind of spiraled into the sort of mind mechanics, but it's all part of that container when it comes to mentoring, isn't it?
Well, I think one of the things that we did last night was we created a charter, you know,
Oh, did
uh,
you?
of how we as mentors should
Yeah.
show up for the mentees, right?
What's in the charter?
So if I talk you through it, so the first thing we talked about was, if there were three words that we would use to be a brand ambassador, what would they be? And so the first one, which was very interesting, you talked about rapport there, was empathy, right? So having empathy with the person that you're working with was absolutely critical.
Hmm.
Being able to at least get a good view of what their world looks like and feels like and sounds like would be really helpful. And then the next part was empowering. So what we didn't want to do, and if I kind of, so with empathy, we're talking about building, being present, listening deeply, and creating a safe space. They were the key aspects of that. And then in terms of empowering, then really what we're focusing on is building confidence and ownership, which was something that you just mentioned, the ownership part,
Yeah.
but also supporting without rescuing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was a really important thing that we all discussed
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And you know that sort of taking it to a slightly different level from a different perspective, those are just bloody good rules for life.
yeah, they are definitely,
You know, it's
yeah,
because
yeah,
we are all mentoring each other,
yeah, yeah,
whether we're aware of it or
or
not.
not. Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
the more conscious we are and the more we take responsibility for what we're putting into that space,
Yeah,
with good integrity,
yes.
then the better the world becomes. And I'm for one, I'm up for that.
And actually, what is brilliant about what you just said there links to the third thing, which is growth. And you talk about the better the world becoming, and they were talking about keeping momentum going.
Yeah.
You know, so instead of each mentoring session being like, oh, should we start again? It's like, okay, let's review the progress we've made so far, rather than focusing on what we haven't done since we last met.
Yeah.
Right. So celebrate progress and develop simple, lasting habits. These are the key things. Rather than bamboozling the mentee with loads of stuff, it's like really keep it nice and simple and keep people focused on what progress they've already made, so
Yeah.
they don't become impatient with themselves. You know?
And what I'm thinking about as you're saying that is that links back to the skills of the mentor to be able to step back and see
Yeah,
the picture,
yeah, that,
as well as dive into a detail if
yeah.
necessary. But the ability to do that is a special ability, I think.
Agreed, and I think that's where we move next, because we talked about the skills. We talked about it in terms of do's and don'ts. So with empathy, we were saying, please do listen actively and paraphrase or parrot phrase to
Yes.
check the understanding. And use warm and plain language, right, as opposed to trying to show that you're really smart.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then the don'ts were don't assume, don't judge, and don't interrupt, and definitely don't dominate. So that was part of the empathy. And then in the empowering part, we talked about open questions. So do open questions or ask open questions and make sure they're kind of stretch questions that kind of stretch people's thinking a little bit, gauge people's self-belief, and also create one clear next step together. So co-create
Yeah.
one clear next step for the next time, you know. And one of the things that we're talking about was don't spoon feed people with the answers or take over any actions and end up doing the stuff for the person.
Okay.
So
Do you
yes,
think how many? What's the ratio of so far? Because I know you're just starting this process.
yeah,
And your mentors, what's the ratio of males to females?
it's 50-50.
Ah, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's really good. I was quite surprised actually. I don't know whether what I was expecting, but yeah, definitely on all the calls we've had, we've probably had literally half men and half women on there.
Ah, that's cool. I was wondering, and this is so unpolitically correct, but what the hell? But I was wondering if there is. I wondered if there'd be more men
Yeah,
who wanted to be problem solvers, because that seems to
yeah,
happen, but I've noticed in the world.
yeah,
I'm not saying it is. Um, and perhaps more women who want to do I'll look after you,
yeah. Nurturing.
the nurturing part. But
Yeah,
actually, what you've described so far, it sounds like you've got really good quality
yeah, yeah. Definitely.
mentor
Yeah.
attitude as
Yes.
well as skills.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really. And, you know, most of these people have in some way, shape, or form done some coaching,
Uh-huh.
or they're doing mentoring, they're doing volunteer work, and they could see a system in
Yeah.
place. I think because the way we've set this up, and I will mention that third thing, do's and don'ts, in a minute.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Um, but because they, that I think, you know, one of the things that the way we've set the whole business up is that the mentoring, the matching process happens on the phone, right? So it's an app, almost like a dating app. So
yeah.
that's
Sorry, my camera's gone funny. Let me just see if I get it.
so what is really interesting is the way this works, under normal circumstances, what would probably happen is, you know, someone kind of says, "Can you be my mentor?" And then the person says, "Yeah," if they've got time or whatever. But what we've tried to do is use an algorithmic um, app process to do this. So what happens is, if you are, I don't know, a young Asian lady and you want to be an engineer, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you're concerned that maybe you want someone to mentor you that kind of looks like you,
Yeah.
understands your background and all that kind of good stuff, right? Then you keep swiping until you find someone,
Oh,
right?
it's like a dating app.
It's like a dating app, except but what happens is, you know, you probably see 3 or 4 different people
Yeah.
based on your experience. Once you've typed in your experience or what you're looking to achieve, then what will happen is you'll get 3 or 4 different people come up, and then you choose the one that you think best fits you,
And do
right?
they have profiles as
Yeah,
apart
so each
from the
person's
visual? It's got,
each,
yeah,
yeah,
so
you've got a profile, you've got your experience, you've also got a video, right? To kind of say, you know, hello, you know, that kind of thing. So you're advertising yourself as a mentor, right? And then the mentee kind of swipes and goes, right, okay, that one, right? And then it's like, this is the person. And then what you do is you check with the mentor that they have the time, because the mentor could go, yeah, but I've got 5 people on the go at the moment. And what we've done is we've limited the number of mentees to 5, right, per mentor. Okay,
yeah.
maximum, right? Because what we want to do is make sure we give good quality and high quality
Yeah.
mentoring. And we talked about being there for people. So what you don't want is people go, "Oh, I'm too busy. I've got to go here now," you know. So that's what we've done. So it's going to be quite interesting because the next stage is attracting all the mentees, right? And we've got one chap who's going around to lots of universities. He's currently doing a lot of work in these universities anyway for underrepresented kids to
Yeah.
help them to stay in university because they are the highest dropout at uni. Because I didn't know this when I went to uni.
Sean, can you, so
So
when you
let me
say
explain.
they,
I'll tell you a story, right?
yeah,
So when I went to university, and I did biochemistry at university, and it was back in 1985 when I went, and I was very proud, and so were my family, right? And I arrived there. I didn't think no one looks like me because most of the time no one looked like me anyway, right? I just cracked on with it,
yeah,
right? And dealt with everything. And then when I arrived at the university, there were 120 in our class, um, and there were only 3 black people in the room, right? Of which I was one of them, and then there was Tony, and then there was Fiona, right? So there's 3 of us,
yeah,
18. Now, to be honest, it didn't really bother me.
yeah, you were resilient anyway.
I'm resilient, blah, blah, blah. It didn't bother Tony and it didn't bother Fiona. We cracked on, went all the way through university, blah. So, if I tell you about this guy, Nathan, he told me his story, right? And I might be paraphrasing a little bit, so Nathan, I apologize. But he went to university, and when he arrived, he was like, no one here looks like me.
Yeah.
Now this is going 20, 25 years later, right?
Ah,
No one here looks like me. Um, oh, I don't feel comfortable here. Not sure I feel safe. Um, I don't think I'm going to go to university. So he dropped out, right?
wow,
And
gosh,
then he was like, the university are contacting him saying, what are you doing? Please come and stay. And anyway, eventually he went back. And then he got through university, got a first, and then he thought there must be loads of people like me. And I can tell you, for example, I have a niece who still hasn't finished her degree. She went to Exeter and she had the same experience as that chap, and she still hasn't finished her degree. In fact, she's ended up not in a good place as a result,
yeah,
right? So at that, so in my mind, I'm thinking, what's wrong with these kids? Right? This is my uh, typical middle-aged man, not really focusing on other people's maps of the world, forget all the NLP, just kind of judgmental and just judging them and thinking, what's wrong with these young kids? Why can't they deal with this? We had to. What's wrong with, And actually, and then I read The Anxious Generation,
yeah,
and I realized we've had completely different childhoods,
yeah,
and they've all gone through COVID and all these different things, which has contributed to how they're feeling when they're going to university, which then clicked on my kind of empathy hat and made me think, blimey, well, I need to be able to help some of these people if I can. And then I started talking to some of the other people in my circle, and they were thinking, yeah, that happened to this kid. Oh, that happened to that kid. Maybe we can provide the tools to help them to get through either university, navigate their jobs, all these kind of things. And so that's basically how we've set this business up, specifically to do that. Now, the reality is, you can always be in an out group at some point, right? So in some way, shape or form, you can always end up being in a group, which is the out group, which therefore means you need mentoring, right?
yeah.
So for now, we're focusing on one cohort of people, but as the thing grows, I think it's going to end up helping a lot more people. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
you
That there's so many questions. I've written quite a few of them down that when you were talking about it. But so the the first resonance that I have is a lot of late teenagers, kids, basically young people who've gone off to college or university, and they come to me, or they're sent to me because they are suicidal.
Yeah.
That in inverted commas.
Yeah.
Often that just means that's what they're saying, but really they feel hopeless.
Yeah.
And that's the generational thing of hopelessness, and what is it that's causing that? And there are many, many influencing factors. But if I strip it all away, one of the strongest patterns I note is that they neurologically they have not built the structures of resilience. And so when they come up against the big bad world,
Yeah.
they have no capability yet, no strategies. They might have the beliefs that it should or shouldn't be. And if you think neurological levels, they might have an identity and they're da 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 da, but they don't have the capability to know how to deal with some of difficulties. And I contrasted that immediately with what you were saying about growing up in the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
where you built resilience because it was tough and it was
Yeah.
hard and you
Yeah.
had to, and
Yeah.
it was wrong. And a lot of the stuff I know, because we've
Yeah.
talked
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
your experience of specifically racism.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it shouldn't have happened. It was wrong, but you experienced it and you found a way of dealing with it. So you have that capability for
Yeah.
resilience. And we've got this current generation who they don't have it, and they're
No.
bombarded with these psychological
Yeah.
ideas that, well, it shouldn't be like that. That's,
Yeah.
that's wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the wrong part of the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
You're right. All of those things, it's wrong, and we shouldn't value it. And there's this opinion, that, but it's the wrong part of the brain. You have
Yeah.
to be able to be stronger. So that came up for me. I was also interested in the exit interviews of why students leave uni,
Yeah.
the quality of extracting good information.
Yeah.
Why does it? Because that takes a special level of inquiry, because most young people will tell you what you want to hear or tell you what they're feeling. But it
Yeah.
to yeah, to get to the heart of it, because there's some amazing data in there that as mentors we want to
Absolutely, that we want to interrogate. And actually, some of the stuff that Nathan has come up with is brilliant data, and that's why he's going into all the universities are just lapping up what he's talking. But it shouldn't just be universities, because actually the workplace. So let me give you an example. I won't name the company, right? But definitely we've done a lot with some companies where we've basically worked on graduate programs with them. So they've got graduates, and they're probably going to end up they end up doing lots of different roles. They might start off in sales, then they go to marketing, then they go to medical, and because it's mainly pharmaceutical industry that I've done previous work with. And I remember there was one company that we worked with, and for once they had one black female on the in this group, this cohort of graduates who had managed to pass and get onto the graduate scheme. She lasted a month. And it was quite interesting when we had the conversation. We were saying, do you know anybody from kind of underrepresented groups or is it all just middle class kids who've all been to nice universities and everything's been great? And they went, well, we did have one lady once, and we said, what happened? She said, she didn't pass. And then you kind of think, who was mentoring her to navigate?
Absolutely.
Because she obviously felt like that person I was talking to before, where she walks into the party and she had the wrong clothes on, or she's turned up to the football game in her kit and actually it's the opponent's jersey. So instantly you're kind of, what are you doing here? So it's really interesting because I read Floella Benjamin's book. not long ago. And we all know Floella Benjamin, of course.
Yeah.
And and her book is called, I think it's called Do You Belong Here or What Are You Doing Here? Right. I need to double check it now I've said that. But anyway, the whole point was she's kind of the same generation as me. What
Yeah.
are you doing here?
Yeah.
So I'd already rehearsed in my brain what I was doing here.
Yeah.
Right. And I always do. I still do. You know, little things that I do to navigate this world, uh, living in here or going across Europe, because people are asking, what are you doing here? So I kind of have this shell in, I already have the answers to what I'm doing here. And I already know in myself that I have a right to be here. In fact, I'm coming here to teach you. So, so that's in my head. But that's years and years and years and years and years of resilience, refining myself, being in awkward situations and having to explain myself, or someone then coming and saying, oh, it's all right, he's okay,
Yeah.
and all of those sorts of things. And I think that is what is
Yeah.
sometimes missing from the generation. And there's only so much as a parent you can do to forewarn your kids without making them feel scared.
Yeah, I know, and this what comes up for me because we've talked about this theme a lot, and the preparation for the world that your kids are going to go into.
Yeah,
My dad saying that to me in quite a tough way when I was very
yeah,
young, saying, I don't care, it doesn't matter whether you like me or not, but I'm going to prepare you for the world that you're going into. And
yeah,
I was heartbroken at the time. I thought it was, not what I wanted. And that's, it is what it is. But that has stayed with me
yeah, yeah,
because I want parents, the parents I work with, to have their view on what's the long game.
yeah,
What do you want your kids to, how do you want your kids to be able to navigate whatever comes their way?
exactly.
And it's one of the tenets of good mental health is being
Yeah,
adaptable and flexible and able to deal with change and uncertainty. And sometimes I hear, and in our conversations over the years, sometimes I still hear that this that I'm going to, this isn't what you've said, but it's like you've got a suit of armor,
yes,
because you remember how it's been and how difficult it's been.
yeah,
And so part of your preparation is to be ready. And I think what I've changed my view on over the years is um, is the more I've experienced taking out my justifications and
mm,
for why I'm here. My answer might be, well, fuck knows.
yeah,
you know, rather than, well, it's because of this. The more I've done that, the easier it's been for me. But I know that that's just me and my makeup and my
yeah, yeah,
journey.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I haven't had to deal with some of the extreme hostility that you've had to deal with. Yeah,
yeah.
that we can say, oh, I'm female, I'm blonde, I'm blah, 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 blah. But it's not the same.
No, 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 definitely. I mean, I don't even want to go to the violence that sometimes can happen
Exactly. Exactly.
which is completely unwarranted when you just
Yeah.
walk into somewhere
Yeah.
and then you are attacked for
Yeah.
no reason.
Yeah, well,
So,
I've been with you. I've been with you in America where it's like, holy shit. No. So
yeah,
yeah, I understand that. And I know that we can't compare on an equal measure, but I'm just thinking about what is it we want to give the next generation for their future, and somewhere between us, particularly with underrepresented groups and ethnic minorities, there's a sort of combination, isn't there? So there's like, yeah, you want to be prepared for what could happen or has happened, but at the same time, you don't have to justify yourself in the world.
No, that's right.
You
And
know,
also,
you exist. You're a beautiful, precious human being.
exactly. But also, if you're really preparing people for the long game, you've got to realize that they're not an ethnic minority, they're part of the global majority, right?
Completely.
So if you're only going to stay in one place,
Yeah, yeah.
then that's fine. You will be an ethnic minority. But if you're prepared to, really embrace mentoring and embrace the world, then you'll find the world is a different place.
Yeah.
Depending on where you travel, and that's the beauty of
I
mentorship, and that's the real great thing.
It's vision, isn't it? And
Yeah, yeah,
even as I was saying the words ethnic minority, my brain was searching for what's the phrase I want.
yeah,
Because we are limited by our parlance, our social
exactly.
constructs. Um, and yes, in one-to-one work, what's the first thing I would do with the client is say, "What do you want?" And they'll say, "I
Yeah,
want that thing there."
yeah,
And I'll go, "Okay," and then let's run the long game. Where will that take you? Often do timeline to the end of life or something, way, way, way out there in the future. You've had this amazing life, da 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 da. What do you look back on? And what are the constituent parts of having had a full, precious, wonderful, resilient
yeah,
life? And what does the world look like? And I think where you and I are completely aligned, and in many areas we're aligned,
yeah,
that one big vision of we're we're humans, we're this much of the
yeah,
earth.
yeah,
Everybody's like, "Oh, the earth, you're killing the earth." The earth's going to survive.
yeah. It will.
Planet will survive. Nature will survive. Whether humans do or
It's
not
another
is
matter.
another matter
That's
altogether.
right. That
Let's
is right.
not think that it's all about us and the what yeah, we are part of this big beautiful soup, and the less we think about separation and division, the better the chances we are of it's more than surviving.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. It's about thriving and
yeah,
having a great life.
exactly.
And I
We've
think,
got this one moment in this incarnation at this moment in time. How do you going back to this, how do
yeah,
you make the very best version of you to shine brightly into the world, which has an effect on the next person, but what you put into that space in the middle, it's the collective consciousness gets
exactly.
brighter and shinier. And yeah, and I'm what I love about being at this moment in time and even having this conversation with you right this moment is it reminds me of many years ago. One of my colleagues in a college I was teaching in used to call me Pollyanna because she
Right.
said, "You've got no idea how awful the world is. You just don't, you're not seeing it." And I'm like, yeah, actually, I did understand how awful the world was, but I still believed that
Yeah, and
things
that's a
could be
and that
better.
you're right, and that's such an important thing because as a mentor, what you don't want is a mentor who is kind of how can I put it? You know, um,
Glass half empty.
glass is half empty, I think is perfect. And actually one of the things this brings us back to the do's and don'ts, because one of the other things that is brilliant we talked about is growth. And we talked about do celebrate wins,
Yeah.
do make goals specific, do focus on small habits and momentum. And it says don't keep things vague or focus on blame. And so,
Yeah.
so one of the key things is in order to help people, it's like forget about all that stuff that's happening over there and let's focus on what's good for you at this moment in time, you know? And I think that's really, really, really. In fact, one of the questions that I really love that they came up with was, so we talked about before, during, and after, and we talked about before meeting, make sure that you're prepared. Make sure that you've got expectations and boundaries set up with
Yeah.
confidentiality, all those really good things. Protect each other's time and make sure you've got good questions.
Yeah.
But what I loved was one of the mentors came up with this phrase, which was, "What matters most today?"
Yes.
And I love that. And it
Mm.
says, "And then listen deeply."
Yeah.
And I think, what a great
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
thing to be able to do with somebody, you know, because they can talk about blah, 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 and you can say, okay, that's great, but
Yeah.
what
Mm.
matters most today? You
That's
know?
the frame that I use to keep me in my strongest state every day,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
sometimes if my brain starts running ahead with shit, by the end of the week I've got I've got this coming up and that, it's like woo, just today,
yeah,
what do I need to
exactly.
focus on today? Yeah, I can look up there, but just for today. A couple of things I wanted to well, I've got a question for you, but yeah, something that made me smile as you were speaking about, helping the young people to realize the one thing that they can control is their attention. And
Yeah.
in sort of baseline mentoring, it was like, what, baseline attention. It's
Mm.
That's the one thing that you have control over.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the ages because I wasn't clear about that. What age of young people are you offering this to?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I really, we were focusing on over 18s, right?
Yeah,
Although we have asked that everybody has their DBS and they'll have a DBS check, right? But I guess most of the mentors so far have worked with young people in some capacity, right? But we really focus on 18 plus. And it doesn't matter whether they're gone to university or going to university, or they failed all their exams and they're in the world of work and they
yeah,
want help to navigate the workplace. It really doesn't matter age wise. And then, there's no upper limit for either, right? There's a lady at the moment, she's just come off maternity leave. I asked her if she wants to be a mentor. She goes, actually, I could do with being mentored. And
yeah,
so I then, we
yeah.
didn't actually use the algorithm. I just knew there was one mentor in the group who'd be perfect to work with her, and then get it on like house on fire.
That's
So
lovely. So you're not just recruiting from the universities.
no, no, not at all. I mean,
Uh,
we're hoping that people are signing up on this app
yeah,
who I have not invited. That was the purpose of it. So it starts to become self-generating.
yeah, yeah,
A lot of the learning material, we've taken this group, this first cohort of, I don't know what we're going to call them, pioneer mentor. I don't know what we are, but anyway, they've doggedly gone through all of these 90-minute sessions that we've run. And now we've got some material to turn that into self-directed learning. Right.
right.
So I think from now on, and it's all on the app. So all of the videos that we've created are all on the app now, and we've got some e-learning as well. So people, if they wanted to become a mentor, actually we've got another uh, mentoring launch on the 25th of September. So if anyone's interested, feel free to come along. Right.
So that what they just turn up, or
They contact
to
us.
you?
They
Yeah.
Yeah, contact me, and then yeah, that's
So
very easy to do.
so is this altruism? If I want to be a mentor, am I just saying, right, this is my contribution. I'm gonna pitch up, learn your system,
Start.
and
Yeah,
be a mentor. I'm gonna volunteer, I don't know, 10 hours a week. Is that the kind of
that
process?
is basically it,
Yeah.
right? And then basically, once you're trained, uh, you kind of hope you get matched, right? So you better write a really interesting uh,
Wow.
profile, and
So there's no money exchange.
not between the mentor and the mentee, no, but the mentee will pay £10 a month for the privilege of having the mentoring, but there's a lot more to it as well because
Okay.
we're creating a whole platform of different things. In fact, I've just written a 12-week curriculum for
Right.
mentees. So
Geez.
it means they can navigate the workplace, they can navigate university. There are
Yeah.
4 areas we're focusing on. One is career development for obvious reasons. The second one is, I hate this phrase, but mindset, because in our brains, that's a nominalization, isn't it? It's like mind set, right? It's like a concrete thing, right? But it obviously not. We're talking about, how to manage your state, all different things like that we're very familiar with. And then there's financial literacy, because again, a lot of people from underrepresented backgrounds, especially if they've come from a poverty, basically, then money management hasn't been taught to them necessarily particularly well. Certainly, I was not taught financial
Yeah.
management. I learned it. And again, one of the things we're going to focus on is really simple things to help people, especially if you're at university, how not to end up in massive debt. But also if you're in the world of work, how to manage your money. A lot of people got too much month at the end of the money. So we're going to work very heavily on helping people financially manage as well. Manage themselves. And then the fourth area is health and well-being. So they're the 4 key areas. And statistically, you look at people from underrepresented groups when they're in the minority, and their health ends up being a lot worse than the collective rest of the people within the country. So it's like, what's going on there? And again, Tony, who's my partner in all of this, he's like a world-class physiotherapist. He's in touch with lots of doctors all the time, and he's producing quite a lot of that data to kind of say, what can we do? But obviously, I've been doing a lot for my own health. I watched my father died last year at the age of 79. But his father lived to the age of 97. And my
Wow.
grandmother on my mother's side lived to 98. She passed away last year as well. And you kind of think, what was it my dad was or wasn't doing that my grandfather
Yeah.
was or wasn't doing?
Was it a natural death or an ill health death?
It was self-imposed.
Okay.
Right? I would say,
Yeah.
right? Because he just basically ate and drunk the
Yeah.
worst possible foods. And again, a lot of this comes from not having very much money. So you end up buying
Yeah.
cheap food,
Yeah.
So there's all this stuff
Yeah.
which we want to be able to provide on a platform to not just help people on a day-to-day basis or what's happening for them today, but also what can really set them up beautifully for life and for the next generation.
Mm.
So that is what this is all about. And that's what happened when I had the kind of sitting there and everybody was saying everything all right during the George Floyd. I was thinking, what can I do to really contribute to change rather than just kind of belly aching about what happened um, to some people or to different minorities in different countries. I really wanted to
Yeah.
provide a solution. And
Be
be
the
empathetic.
change, Chris.
Yeah, lead change, be empathetic, right? Listen deeply, and then help people out of that, whatever scenario they're in. And of course, now we've got this whole group of people who are of the same mindset, and we're looking for more.
Excellent. Excellent. It sounds like it's I was thinking in the sort of metaphor of, it was seeded a long time ago, the roots have germinated, the soil is fertile, the shoots are starting to head up towards the light, and
Yeah,
yeah, watch this space and nurture it,
yes,
right
definitely.
conditions, and it who knows what will flourish as a result.
Exactly. You just never know what happens with these things. I mean, we've both been entrepreneurs over the years, and sometimes you go in one direction and then suddenly something else emerges and great things happen, right? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Concept, the base concept and the concept for this conversation was around mentoring, and I think as human beings we have a responsibility
yeah,
to just be aware of our influence
Agreed.
certainly on ourselves, but on other people. And when
Yeah,
you add in some skills to be able to influence people, or the space in which
yeah,
we communicate in a positive, useful way, so people can take useful action. But that's it's just heartwarming. That's compassion, that's love. And without getting all soppy on it, I think that's the baseline.
yeah,
You see
really.
what I did there?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, yeah,
Fine.
yeah. See, it comes into part. And actually, Tony came up with the phrase baseline. And I thought, is it because he's a magician, a musician? He is a magician, but he's also a musician. He loves
Yeah.
playing music. And I thought maybe he was listening to a bass line. But there's so many metaphors for why we've come up with that name. So it's great, and really looking forward to making this happen and making this come alive.
Always a pleasure to chat with you, Chris. Think about what we'll chat about next time.
Yes, I look forward to it.
Exciting.
Excellent.
Take care.
Brilliant.